So this will be my third video commentary on another so-called pet tuber, and let me just say that I'm well aware of how this is going to go. My first two videos got a lot of backlash because obviously these YouTubers are well loved, and criticizing them is tantamount to attacking the character and identity of the people who love them, their fans. Ironically, the first two subjects of my videos, my video commentary, Camels and Friends and Taylor Nicole Dean, they both, completely unexpectedly on my part by the way, eventually became the subject of animal cruelty allegations. In the case of Camels and Friends, she literally pled guilty to animal cruelty, and guess what? She still has supporters. So I know very well, some people you can never change their mind. But I will still put this out here because if it becomes useful to even one person, then I think it's worth doing. Also, I won't be using any video clips from the Toucan TV channel because I literally had my video about Camels and Friends ripped down due to a copyright claim from her for using a screenshot from one of her videos, which was also fair use, by the way. So anyway, some quick background for the small number of people who haven't seen Tiger King or know about Big Cat Rescue. By the way, I've known about Big Cat Rescue and Carole Baskin for almost a decade. But anyway, Carole Baskin is an animal rights activist. She doesn't believe exotic cats, both large and small, should be in captivity. She even wants to take away pretty much domesticated breeds like Bengal and Savannah cats. She also has a decently sized zoo housing exotic cats, lions, tigers, and she even has Savannah cats outside in cages. She got her start having purchased, I think, around 56 bobcats or something like that, and that she purchased from a fur farm, or so she says. And she also bred them and sold them as pets to people, and she got more exotic cats later and did the same. But anyway, later she decides, after getting denied AZA accreditation, as many people don't know about her, that zoos which keep exotic cats should all cease to exist. So while her zoo continues to accumulate cats, she is fighting to stop other zoos from doing so, while pretty much receiving a bunch of praise and also making a decent living doing so. So this brings us to Brock of Toucan TV. He just so happened to comment on the whole Tiger King situation, and I was very taken aback by the title he used for that video. So the title is Tiger King, Exploiting Animals for Fame and Why Toucans Shouldn't Be Pets, rant in parenthesis. Wow, so where to start? I actually just came across an article called Why You Can't Trust Yourself, and it's about some of the cognitive biases human beings inherently have. One of the article's points was, you are biased and selfish without even realizing it. So it goes on to give this example. If you're at an intersection and somebody else runs a red light, you will probably think they're a selfish, inconsiderate scumbag, putting the rest of the drivers in danger just to shave a couple of seconds off their drive. On the other hand, if you are the one who runs the red light, you'll come up with all sorts of conclusions about how it's an innocent mistake, how the tree was blocking your view, and how running a red light never really hurt anybody. Same action, but when someone else does it, they're a horrible person. When you do it, it's an honest mistake. So you'll probably see where I'm going with this. Who the heck is Brock to accuse someone of exploiting their animals when he's literally using his birds to pay his bills? And that's not an exaggeration. He actually literally says that his channel is responsible for 75% of his income. By the way, I thought I should just mention I'm not a Joe Exotic supporter, and I've spoken out against him too. So now you might be thinking, oh, Brock's not exploiting them, because exploitation implies harm in some definitions, and the birds are rescued, aren't they? Well, actually he is exploiting them. Do you think it's a good idea to feed your toucans Fruit Loops? Or how about Chick-fil-A nuggets? Let me just say, while it's probably okay to give your dog some junk every once in a while, you do not take this risk with birds. Birds can be very delicate. Toucans specifically, they are very sensitive to iron, which is found in higher levels in all animal foods. Now, I know Brock loves to talk about toucans being predators. how they eat other birds and things like that. But what happens in the wild is not necessarily the best way to manage our pets in captivity. There's actually a theory that toucans ingest tannins from holes in trees to neutralize the harmful effects of iron that they get from their animal consumption. Whether or not this is true, it just shows all the variables that wild living may present that is not occurring with our pet birds. But there's also the possibility that perhaps wild birds just don't live as long. We know meat is harmful to toucans, so therefore it should never be fed to them. Toucans are sometimes given crickets during breeding season, and that's usually when toucans consume animals even in the wild. During breeding season, when they're raising chicks for both the mother and the chicks, so that they can get more protein, and there's not much protein in fruit. In captivity, non-breeding toucans should exclusively be fed fruit and Missouri soft-bill pellets, which is how they get their protein without too much iron. These pellets have been specially formulated with research and feeding trials, so that's where they get their protein, and that's all you need to feed them besides the fruit. So I'm not saying he's the worst caretaker in the world by any means, but he knowingly did something that is unhealthy for his birds just to get views, aka he exploited them and he profited off of them. So he also doesn't really have an ideal situation for the birds. When I first looked into getting a toucan many years ago, I was under the impression that they should be housed only in these enormous walk-in aviaries. So my hopes of getting them were dashed. But later I found out it might be okay to keep the smaller aerosaries in more standard indoor cage. So I eventually got a green aerosari. Anyway, though, Brock bypasses these large enclosure recommendations by supposedly letting the birds free roam, and he says they have free roam for most of the day, or at least 2 of them do, something like that. But I question if that's even safe or sanitary. I know, toucans poop a ton, and they also try to swallow everything, and that can easily kill them. I've also seen that he forcibly housed his keel-billed toucan next to a toucan of another species, even though that toucan in particular was showing a lot of stress, and it was a new bird, and it had not yet acclimated to its new environment. So that is definitely not recommended, although he had said he thinks it's okay because different species of toucans intermingle in the wild. Again, living in a cage and having the space of the jungle, they're not the same thing in any capacity. Perhaps when Brock gets his new house, with his donators' money, he'll improve the bird's housing situation. Because, he is actually raising money to apparently start some kind of toucan rescue, and of course we need to buy him a new house to achieve this. So now let's talk about rescues. So when I donate to animal rescues and other charities, I do it because I want to thank and help people out who are doing something at least difficult or unpleasant in some way, to help out those in need, whether it's orphan children or dogs or something like that. I also understand that these people are doing this hard work despite they're not getting rich off of it. It's usually the opposite. And there's also people who are facing a rough patch who I donate to. Like, for instance, I did send money to people who cannot afford the vet care of their pets and they need it urgently, things like that. Now let's look at Brock's situation. He apparently doesn't work and lives comfortably by making home movies of his pets. He says he loves keeping toucans and couldn't imagine his life without one. This is obvious since he spent thousands on them. So where's the charity here? Where's the sacrifice? So this guy who already profits off of his animals, now he wants us to buy him a new house so he can get more expensive birds and just live even better. And on top of this, he claims he thinks it's wrong to keep toucans and other exotic animals as pets. So you really can't make this stuff up. There's something that non-animal people just really don't get for some reason. We actually enjoy keeping exotic pets. It's a totally desirable existence for us. It's not charity work, even if you get a rehomed animal that you quote unquote adopt. Although it's painfully common for people with these animals to behave as otherwise. You've got Carole Baskin, who wants us to consider her a champion for getting cats and shutting everybody else down, although she admittedly at least doesn't contact her animals, she doesn't touch them, and she doesn't technically purchase them anymore, and so she's not contributing to the trade of them, which is more than I can say for Brock. Now, he actually spent thousands. I'm thinking the price was around $8,000 for his red-billed toucan, and for his so-called rescue toucans, of which he conveniently has one of each species. So now he has 3 different species. He got his fans to pay for them and their medical care. I'm going to flat out state that I believe he is a collector, a toucan collector. And just like Carole, he found a way to get paid for it. There is actually a lot of money involved with so-called rescue work, and that is why it is extremely attractive to many people. In fact, Camels and Friends, who I mentioned before, she got so many donations. She got people to pay for her pets too, including $1,000 for an ostrich, and someone, they just sent her an entire enclosure that was $300 just for a mink that also just disappeared without explanation. So there's just this big issue with random people on YouTube getting people to adore them and send them money for not really doing anything. They are no different from people who adopt dogs. I acknowledge that one of the birds he got was in rough shape, but he didn't even pay for that bird's veterinary care. And despite their health status, these birds, they still have value. Starting a toucan rescue in the United States is like starting a lost and found for gold watches, where nothing gets returned. So these are all points to think about. Why do we have a person who exploits their pets and reaps tremendous benefits from them, and they're also talking crap about exotic pet owners? Toucans actually make great pets, but just like all pets, they aren't for everyone, and yes, they have their cons, again, just like all pets. So for him to say they shouldn't be pets and then ask us to pay him to buy more of them, that's pretty slimy. Anyway, that is all.